Okay, this looks like it is Rob from Florida. Yeah. How do I know I'm making money in my labor? How do I make them with your labor? Okay. So this one's a very interesting one. If I ask a business owner, essentially, are they making money in terms of their labor? There's a kind of a visceral response there. There's this response where the owner thinks I'm really actually questioning their leadership. It's not. I'm not questioning leadership. I just want to know how they measure really the labor itself. And there is a very specific way. I've covered some of this in my videos in the past, but I'll kind of touch on it again. It's a thing called build to sold ratio. And build to sold ratio really means how many hours your labor force is billing you versus how many you're billing your clients. And so even though there's a gap in most cases, in other words, I pay my employee this much an hour and then therefore I actually charge my clients more, so therefore I'm making a good margin. Well, the margin really, the standard that's set forth is you should be billing out 80% of the hours or more, but that's the minimum standard, 80% or more of the hours that are billed to you by your labor force. I always use a quick math of saying an employee works for me for 40 hours a week, and I usually pay them for 50 or 52 weeks a year. So all depending on their negotiated contract. So on average, a business owner is getting charged by a laborer. They're getting billed roughly 2,000 hours a year. So if I use the rule of thumb that says I should be able to sell 80% of those to my clients or bill those to my clients, then the work that I either provide for them because I'm the salesperson in the company or the amount they go out and bill for me is 1,600 hours per employee. So if you want to know if you're making money first and foremost, or if you can make more, is really how many of those hours are you being billed to your clients. So 80% is a good rule of thumb. So let's put some math to it. If it is that I pay $25 an hour for that employee, and again, they bill me for 2,000 hours for the year, then that employee costs me $50,000 a year. So if my shop rate is $50 an hour, okay, let's just say that's my labor rate, then essentially what I'm earning off that employee is double that amount. That's what I should be producing. Well, the thing is, that's only if they were playing perfect, right? In other words, I was able to bill my clients for all 2,000 hours that my employee billed me. But if it's 80% that is actually our goal, right? And that means that it could be that they leave I guess they clock in, let's say at 7 in the morning, and they're sitting in the parking lot for a little longer, having that last conversation, last cigarette, last cup of coffee, and then they go out to the job site. By the time they get to the job site, sometimes there's already been 45 minutes to an hour just of travel time, truck time. They may have stopped at the gas station. So I'm already being billed by my labor force for that hour, but I'm not getting any production out of it. When we look at breaks and lunch and travel time back to the shop, waiting on material, there's lots of different aspects that can happen on a day-by-day basis, all depending on your trade or what sector you're in. And as a result, those hours can kind of whittle away. And so 20% is really an acceptable number of inefficiency, right? There is going to be 20% of those hours that are being billed to me that I'm willing to be okay with as it relates to travel time. If that's true at 80%, right, then I'm actually only making $80,000 for the employee. So where I may have envisioned here that I'm making $50,000 per employee, and the reason why is they bill me 25, and on top of that, I make 50 on them. What in actuality that I'm making is only $30,000 at 80%. That's if you're producing 80%. So that's a very interesting thing, is that you have to be able to measure that, is what is the number of hours billed to me by my labor force versus how many do I sell to my clients per employee. Now, here's the other factor. Now we get into, let's say, a situation where somebody has overtime. They're paying for overtime. Now it's time and a half, which now means I'm paying $37.50 for every hour that they have overtime. I'm sure you can understand, we won't go through the math, but that starts eating away at this value as well, because I'm now paying more for that labor and I'm targeting 80%. So how do you know you're making money on your labor? Measure the build to sold ratio. How many hours you billed last year for all of your employees versus how many hours you were billed. If the number is not 80% or higher, then something's got to change. You got to look at really how are you tracking it? How are you communicating it? How are you incentivizing it? Those are all the key areas that really will drive that labor force. And the thing is we have generational changes that are in the labor force, and what may have worked as an incentive and what may have worked in terms of managing that labor force 20 years ago doesn't really apply now. They're a different labor force and they need different incentives and different drivers and all those different aspects. So measure it first, manage it second. That's the real answer here. I hope that answers your question, Rob.